not from Jones and Butler, then from one of the other big firms. Yours, the man repeated. Salary is $15,000 a year. The man set his cigarette on the ashtray and took a sip of coffee. Tom, it's real simple. If you want the job, I'll tell Jim to hire you. Tom gazed down at the smoldering cigarette. $15,000 a year. That was a little more than he was making now, but what about the future? What about being a trial lawyer? Coach, I don't know. I've never thought about teaching. I'll need to talk with Julie. When do you need to know something? Just get back to me in a week. I agree you should talk with your wife, but I want you to think about something. The man paused, taking one last pull on the cigarette before crushing it out in the ashtray. Tom, I've always believed in giving something back to the people and institutions that gave to you. The University of Alabama has given me a lot. It's where I played football and learned I wanted to be a coach. It's where I got my degree and met my wife. I've never regretted coming home. Then, forming a tent with his hands, he added, You won't regret it either. Tom met the man's eye and couldn't help but think of that moment 10 years earlier, when the man had sat at another table flanked not just by Tom, but by Tom's mama and daddy. He could still remember the man's words. Son, you'll never regret choosing to play for me and choosing to attend school at Alabama. Turning to Tom's mama, the man had said, Ma'am, I think your son's a great football player, and more than that, a great kid. We'll make him a man. We'll make him go to class and get his degree. Looking at Tom's daddy, the man had said, And if he gets out of line, we'll get him back in line, even if we have to lean on him a little. Tom's daddy had smiled at the last statement and met the man's gaze. The man concluded by saying, Folks, if you send your boy to Alabama, he'll come out of it a winner. We'll teach him success on the football field, and that success will carry over into every part of his life. The man had gone away without an answer that night, but Tom had known. He was sold just like his parents on Alabama football and Coach Paul Bryant. A few minutes later, the waitress brought their food and the talk turned to the past, of the 61 team and whether Tom kept up with any of the boys. The man ate his breakfast quickly and looked at his watch every so often. He had done what he had come to do, and now it was on to the next job at hand. When they were finished, the man picked up the tab and the two men walked together to Tom's car. Think about what I said, son, the man said, squeezing Tom's shoulder. I'd love for you to come home. Okay, Coach, But the man was already walking away, passing out of earshot before Tom could get the words out. Through the glare of the sun, the man's 6'4" body cast a shadow over half the parking lot. Tom smiled and opened his car door. He would talk to Julie. He would speak with George McDuff. He might even write out the costs and benefits of becoming a law professor. But by the time he was halfway to Birmingham, Tom knew, just as he had known those many years ago. The man had called, and he knew he must answer. Part 1. 1. At 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2009, Rose Batson stepped out of the Texaco gas station that she managed to grab a smoke. None of the 4 self-serve pumps were in use, and Rose spat on the ground after blowing out her first puff. Ain't making no money today, she said to herself, taking a long drag on her Camel unfiltered cigarette. Of course, it made no difference to Rose. She was on salary. But customers helped make the day pass. Yesterday had been crazy, what with all the beachgoers coming home. There hadn't been a time from 10 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. when at least one of her pumps wasn't in use. Rose herself had only been to the beach once, back in the summer of '67 when she was a teenager. Panama City for a long weekend. Rose smiled to herself, thinking of the long-ago trip that marked the first, second, and third times she had ever been laid. Old Rosie could throw that leg, she said out loud, laughing at the memory of her lost